Hey guys, John Eichberg with the Fuels Institute. I just had a great conversation about the biofuels market with Zander Capozzola from Argus Media. He has some sobering assessments about the status of the market and what the future might hold. Take a listen.
Yeah, fine stuff.
So, anyways, the reason I called you is I wanted to get your
Yeah, what's
thoughts on
up?
what's going on in the biofuels market. I've seen some headlines that are making me think, clearly, overall liquid fuel volumes down, so that's hurting everybody in the liquid fuel business. But you've seen some things about the certain byproducts that are used in the meat packing industry for refrigeration aren't available anymore. I'm concerned. I got a lot of buddies in the biofuels market. I'm concerned what's going to happen with them.
Yeah, well, I was kind of, I was going through because I split my time pretty evenly between the biofuel sector and I also work on the jet side at Argus, and so and the overlap there is the renewable diesel and the sustainable aviation fuel, and then all the environmental credits that go along with them. So, jack of all trades. Hopefully, I've mastered a couple of them. Um, so yeah, the ethanol industry got caught. They were already heading into a pretty bad situation. Things were not looking good late last year either, in terms of the profitability. um, but I was looking at some of the slides I've been presenting out at Napa and some of the other stuff I've done with y'all and stuff I've done with some of the trade groups. It's like I've been saying for about 3 years now that we are massively structurally oversupplied, and that comes in the form of um, you know, basically not as much export demand appetite. They've become way too dependent as an industry on the export side. You have E15, which was kind of um, uh, which was kind of written off as a political win for the industry, is really kind of faces an economic hurdle when you have the SREs kind of gutting out the program. Um, and in general, you just have overproduction. We were setting continuous record high inventory levels heading into this to begin with, and then in 2016 getting smacked with trade war implications as well. I think
Right.
think the industry was wildly optimistic that they would be able to just send any excess um, to China and that they would just happily buy it. And I also think that I think that they also got the United States ethanol industry kind of got caught asleep at the wheel on some of their consistent buyers that they would continue to buy at the levels they were. Um, Not so much Canada, but Brazil putting essentially an import quota on. The Philippines becoming a lot more self-sufficient in their own production, and Thailand coming back to be more of a regional supplier in the area. So um, they they long story short is I think they were not in they were already in a large oversupply situation, and they were in no shape to weather something like what we're going through right now.
I'd seen some of the reports that the focus was on exports because you look at 10% ethanol blend throughout the market, pretty much ubiquitous with some pockets of E0 here and there. The uptick in E15 has not been as aggressive as many of us thought would happen. I'm still pretty bullish on it. I think, once we clear out of this, I think there's going to be a pretty good opportunity for E15. The majority of the vehicles on the road now are approved by EPA to run on it. So there's some marketability there. The year-round restrictions gone. So I think there's opportunities. It's going to take some time. But
Yeah,
again, is that the savior? Is that the savior for the industry?
I okay. So well, first off on E15, I would cautiously disagree with you on that.
Mhm.
It's like last year was the first year that they had it, and there's a lot of consumer education that needs to go along with that, I think. And obviously the pumps and the pump labeling. And then this summer was supposed to be kind of the first summer where we get a really good
Right.
data set on what E15 was going to look like. And obviously we're gonna completely miss that.
Yeah. And I
So I
missed a
think
lot of things this summer.
yeah, there's gonna be a lot of abnormalities in the data sets this year. But I mean, I think with these higher blends, and I've always said this, is like it comes down to it really comes down to an importance in educating the consumer. If I was the RFA, I would take the entire yearly budget and just put an ad during the Super Bowl and just say it's all right to just put this stuff in your car. It's
You're
totally all right.
assuming we're going to have a Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's right. I
You
mean,
know, I actually kind of disagree with you because we're doing some research right now, trying to collect data on the market to develop what are the best practices. If you're a marketer and you put in E15, how are you going to be successful? What should you do? And I was on a panel late last year with SAE on e-fuels. And they asked me, John, do you think marketers will sell electricity derived liquid fuels? And I say, retailers don't get up in the morning thinking about how do I lower my carbon footprint? They get up, how do I sell more stuff? Customers don't want to think about what they're buying. And if the product is compatible and can be used in their vehicles, if you tell them it's different, they're going to go, whoa, I don't know. But if they don't know it's different and they can use it, then there's an opportunity there. So sometimes I think education of the consumer might be a little too much.
well, I mean, I think that actually proves my point because I think at the second they get out of their car at the pump, they don't even want to think.
Right.
And it's
Absolutely. They
some of
usually
these
don't.
gas,
They
right?
usually
So
don't.
if you have to literally sit there and now maybe there's a E10, an E15, or E85, and then a diesel. They don't want to have to use any more brain capacity than they're already using,
Right.
and they're already upset that they're there in the first place. Like nobody likes pulling over for gas in general, um, which is why I think you're actually seeing some of this E0 kind of claw back in some areas. Um, but yeah, I think I think it would require just a commercial with some celebrities saying higher blends are all right, and you're actually doing, you're helping out the farmer.
that
'Cause at the
is
end of it,
a that is an absolute clear and
because that's when you have their attention. You don't have their attention at the gas pump, right? I mean,
no.
some of these places have little TV screens that are blasting the news at you that you don't even want to hear.
If Ryan Reynolds tells you to buy E15,
Yeah,
you probably will, right? I mean, that's what our society's gotten to. Is what celebrity is telling me to do something. They're the authority. They're the ones I'm going to listen to, and it's crazy.
I mean, if I'm sure somebody from the RFA will listen to this call. I've already dinged the industry a little bit for being asleep at the wheel on where exports were heading, so I'm sure I'll get a couple of emails already.
Hey, you know
But
what? All attention's good attention when you're in the media, right?
yeah, wow, oh man, I couldn't have learned that lesson any harder
But one of the
than the
big
last
things about the
half decade.
biofuels market that we both know is policy is so important. And I look
Yes.
at where are we going? You take a look at the satellite imagery with NOx emissions, and we stop driving, and the air quality improved dramatically. I think that's going to give a huge boost of momentum to the environmental community. Then you look at something like the low carbon fuel standard in California, which is 80% of compliance is done by biofuels. I mean, is there a role for the biofuel market to take advantage of that air quality momentum?
I mean, I'm sorry to say, but I mean, like, I think with I mean, what you're seeing right now during the COVID response is a rollback of a lot of the environmental progress that we've made. And there's two reasons for that. I mean, obviously there's the politics of it, um, but there's also the simplicity of of running what we have, and there is a very strong economic need to ensure the supply chains are operating effectively. I mean, you've already seen LCFS prices fall very heavily through all this. Um, and so a lot of the environmental programs are starting to get a little bit of rollback from all this because people are realizing like we have plenty of transport fuel supply coming out of our existing refineries. Um, for instance, you're seeing um, Trump's doing the safe rollback of the Obama era
FA program.
mileage. Yeah, the cafe mileage standards. You saw um, waivers to allow them to use winter gas. They still have winter gasoline up in New York right now
You have to. You can't clear out the
because
terminals when there's no demand.
they couldn't clear out the tanks to make room for summer, and
Yep.
and so there's been a lot of basically economic expediencies that have put these environmental programs on the back foot, on the back burner. And a great example of it is they were supposed to launch a LCFS similar program for New York and the East Coast. We were gonna have a conference in May on that, and they have delayed looking at that for at least a year.
Yeah. My
But
biggest
I
concern is
think
the
just like
whiplash is going to hit.
the whiplash in terms of
If we've delayed environmental programs, and depending what happens in November, the agenda of the environmental advocates and the politicians who are environmentally minded, they may come back with a little renewed fervor to kind of push these back to make up lost ground.
well, I mean, I'm just okay. So I mean, at the bare bones of all this, to the core of our conversation, I think the health of the ethanol industry and the country as a whole kind of come down to two things. It's the economy, the healthy economy, and how quickly we rebound on this, and then it's also how quickly OPEC gets their act together and stops fighting for market share.
Right.
And that's obviously was a byproduct of that was what hurt ethanol so badly. And so, in my opinion, I think that with the we have almost 15% unemployment last month. I mean, granted, a lot of that is in, I think almost 2/3 of that was in service jobs, hotels, restaurants, bars,
Mm-hmm.
stuff that can quickly come back if we're able to get the show on the road again. But I think the next kind of tranche of unemployment that we'll see are some higher paying jobs in ethanol in the energy industry, particularly the upstream side. And I think that's going to hurt a lot worse. So I don't think we've seen the worst of the economic impact yet.
Yeah.
And I think with the economy on its knees, the environment, people will not be voting on the environment, on their environmental beliefs in November.
Yeah.
That's my view.
I think it's going to be a question: do they vote for the existing leadership, or do they vote for an alternative leadership? If it's new leadership, they are more environmentally bent than the current administration, clearly, and that could provide some momentum. But I got to run in a couple minutes, but real quick. So we got RFS has been a big topic as well over the last couple of years. We got the reset coming up. What are you hearing on where RFS might go?
I mean, I'm kind of more concerned about, and I'm sure a lot of the people that would listen in are listening in, and people in the industry and our friends essentially are more concerned about the immediate. What can we do to save the industry in the immediate? It doesn't, everybody's gotten a bailout so far except ethanol, really. You've got, meat packers have gotten have gotten an executive order from Trump. You had the airlines get a bailout. But it doesn't look like ethanol is going to get a bailout, and they really don't have a lot of tools in the toolbox. I mean, the EPA can adjust, they can adjust the RIN bank, but that's really not going to help people this year.
All right.
That really wouldn't start to impact until next year. You can adjust your RVO moving forward. Again, that's not going to help people this year, or you're going to have to start seeing more plant closures. And so, I mean, that really goes to something that I want to talk about today. It was like really the economics that are helping these guys you're seeing a kind of a shift in terms of the profitability of the co-products that are coming out of ethanol plant. Usually a third is ethanol, a third is DDG, and a third is CO2 in most plants. About 80% of the revenue stream is usually coming from the ethanol itself. But right now, nobody wants ethanol, and there's really not many areas to store anything these days. But you need the CO2 for a variety of industries, the medical industry, the beverage industry, it goes on. And so they're actually overpaying for CO2 to keep those plants open and keep those supply chains open, and they're overpaying for DDGs to keep animal feed coming in. Even though the restaurant industries have been hurt in all this COVID stuff, but yeah, the RVO reset, I think an RFS reset really hinges on what happens in November. If there is a change, because for me, the Wheeler and the EPA in general has just very much been, let's keep RIN markets stable. Let's see, we want stability in this credit market, and that allows the refiners and some of the bigger players in the market to make more long-term business decisions in the RIN market.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, hey, thanks for checking in with me. I love catching up, and hopefully we can get together in person soon.
Yeah, happy to catch up again. There's a lot to talk about these days. There's a lot of volatility out there, so
it gives people like us something to do, right?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity in the volatility, but I'm just glad that the New York curve has really dropped in the past couple of weeks, and so it looks like in certain areas of the country we'll be coming out of this okay.
Yep. All right, man. Have a good afternoon. I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Bye.